there's a freaking plane outside.
3 hours later.
Anytime now. Are we in the clear yet? Are we in the clear yet? Are we in the clear yet? In the clear yet? I timed that so right. Okay, I'm a mastermind. Hey everyone, it's Angie and welcome back to my channel. January really passes by. At least that's how I feel. I've heard some people say that January is like the freaking longest month in the entire year. I don't feel that. I felt like Christmas was freaking yesterday. So I wanted to go over all the books I've read in the month of January. I read 10 books, guys. I think that's the first time in my life that I've hit double digits in a reading month. Insane. I think it's only downhill from here, but it's a good start to the year, you know? Let me go over the 10 books that I've read in the month of January. So the first book that I read this month is My Daughter Vanessa. Definitely a hard book to read. It's about a 15-year-old girl. Her name is Vanessa. So she kind of gets coaxed into this relationship with her English teacher. He's a 42-year-old man named Jacob Strange. Definitely the topics in this book are very difficult to read at times. It definitely made me like feel disgusted and revolted because of the abuse that we see in this book. And it's really interesting to see how Vanessa rationalizes everything that's happening to her and how she kind of like takes this as a romance that's happening to her, not an abuse. Like she's literally gaslighting herself the entire book into believing that whatever she has with Jacob is this beautiful romantic thing, but she just has blinders the entire time. And this is why I absolutely love this book, because we get to be in the head of this 15-year-old girl and we get to see her thought process. I feel like this book is the best kind of character study, and at the same time you also have alternating timelines. So you kind of see Vanessa as a 15-year-old and then Vanessa as an older woman, and how she is really trying to make sense of what happened to her while she was in school. And I think this book is incredible. It was incredibly well written. Definitely if you want to pick this book up, check the trigger warnings for this, because it's definitely a difficult read. It will leave you disturbed, but I feel like these kind of stories need to be told. These kind of perspectives need to be put out there so people can understand what it's like to be in the head of the victim who's going through all of this. So all in all, I would rate this book a solid 4 stars. It was a really good read, but definitely a little difficult to get through. You know, after a really difficult book, you need a palate cleanser, and I don't know about you, but every time I read a book that's kind of disturbing, kind of morbid, I go on a romance bender. Like all I read are contemporary romances, and that's exactly what happened with the next couple of books that I read. So the next book I finished is The Holiday Romance. So I read like 80% of this book by 2023. There's definitely a holiday romance book as given by the title. Like duh, Angie, like why are you mentioning the obvious? But yeah, I wasn't able to finish the book because during the holidays it got really busy and I just didn't have the time for it. So I had to finish it in January. And I have kind of put this as one of the books I finished in January. It's kind of not fair, but I'm the one who gets to make the rules, so no one judge me. Let me tell you a little bit about the book. So this book is probably, dare I say it, my favorite holiday book that I've consumed in my entire life. Like it was the cutest, bubbliest romance. So in the book you have Molly and you have Andrew. And they're longtime friends and they're trying to make it home for the holidays. They're both from Dublin, Ireland, and they're trying to make it back there. And the universe just like throws a little wrench in the line. Like they're both in the struggle bus trying to make it home. Time for Christmas to Dublin. And it's just a struggle. They're trying to find alternate routes and stuff like that. And their romance kind of blossoms along the way. And it's just the cutest romance ever. I have to say though, Andrew Fitzgerald. Oh no. What was his last name? It was Andrew Fitz something. Andrew Fitzpatrick. This man definitely had his effect on me. He had me giggly. I like kicking my feet. And I haven't felt this way about a romance in a long time. So I was really grateful I actually chose to read this book. It was the best decision ever. So this year for Christmas, if you want to pick up a holiday romance, pick up the freaking Holiday Romance. Like, it's such a good book. Please go read it. It's like the cutest romance ever. The guy in it is just fine. I would rate this book 4 stars, 4.5 stars, something like that. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It gave me the holiday fuzzies. It was the right book at the right time. You know what I mean? Yeah. I just took a little longer to finish it. Please don't hold that against me. Third book that I read in January was Nick and Charlie. If you have seen Heartstopper, you will know that those are the 2 main characters in Heartstopper. I really like the characters, so I thought, you know, might as well pick up this book and see what's up. This picks up after the 5th book in Heartstopper. So Nick is looking at universities. You know, he's trying to figure out where he's gonna go after he graduates high school. Charlie is a grade lower, so he doesn't really have to, you know, bother about that yet. But at the same time, he's dating someone who's gonna, you know, leave school, and, you know, it's it's really eating at him, and he doesn't know how to like convey his feelings very well, so that's kind of like causing problems in their relationship. Let me say I'm not the biggest fan of like miscommunication in relationships, so I didn't enjoy it as much as I liked like the OG Heartstopper books. If you're really in love with these characters, I feel like you will really enjoy it. For me, it was a solid 3 stars. Like I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. Either or, it was a fun read. So the 4th book that I read in the month of January was The Bodyguard. This is about a woman bodyguard, which is like awesome in itself. She gets hired to be the bodyguard of this really high profile celebrity. His name is Jack Stapleton. So his mom gets sick and he wants to be able to spend a little more time with his family. So he hires our awesome bodyguard whose name is Hannah, and Hannah gets assigned to him. He suggests that Hannah pretend to be his girlfriend because he doesn't want to disclose to his family that he hired, you know, additional protection around it. They, you know, fake date and things go from there. I thought this story was really cute. I especially like the ending of it. It didn't like blow me away. It was not out of the ordinary for me, so I would rate this book 3 stars. Solid 3 stars, solid book. Really enjoyed it. So if you want like a lighthearted fuzzy read, I would highly suggest this one. Okay, so the 5th book that I read is A Curse. I always butcher the title. It's called A Curse of True Love. There's a freaking plane outside. Anytime now. Are we in the clear? Are we in the clear? Are we in the clear? In the clear yet? I timed that so right. Okay, I'm a mastermind. What was I saying? Oh yeah, A Curse of True Love, the 3rd book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. I will say though, the 2nd book ended in a very nasty cliffhanger. It had me by the throat and I was like, this is how you're gonna end it? Like, how cruel. But then we got the 3rd book and I thought that it was a very good continuation and like conclusion to the 2nd book and the entire series as a whole. I just thought it was very entertaining. I know a lot of people complained about the 3rd book. They said that Jax's point of view wasn't as prevalent, which I can see that being an issue, but at the same time, it did not faze me that much. Like, it didn't bother me as much as I thought it would, but at the same time, yeah, Apollo sucks and Jack and Ava forever. I would rate this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. And I really love the world and it's so whimsical and fairy tale like, and it reminds me of all the things I loved as a kid. I can't really fault the book with too much. Would I have loved more chapters from Jack's point of view? Yes. Okay, the next 3 books that I read are actually a part of a quartet. I thought it was a trilogy, but apparently not. Why are there so many planes on the sky right now? So the next 3 books that I read were a part of the Legend series by Mary Lou. I really enjoyed the series. It's based on like a dystopian USA. There's also like a plague going around that's causing, you know, people to die. We follow 2 characters in this book. One's named June and she's born into like the elite society and she's training in the military. And then we have this guy named Day who's like really hustling through the streets. He's from the slums and he is the most wanted criminal in the Republic. And one day June's brother dies and Day becomes the prime suspect for it. That's how the story builds from there. I've been really wanting to get back into like the dystopian scene a little bit, but I didn't want to go like the traditional like Hunger Games route. Like, I wanted to try something new. This is a really good option if you want to dip your toes back into... I thought that was a plane again. Oh my god. Anyway. It's a motorbike. This is so annoying, guys. Oh my gosh. So yeah, it was Legend, and then you had Prodigy, and then you had Champ. So these are the 3 books that I've read off the series. I know there's a 4th book out and it's called Rebel. I don't know if I want to check it out, honestly, because like 2 of my favorite characters were Day and June. And I feel like their story kind of concluded in a good way in the last book, so I'm kind of hesitant to pick up the next book. But you never know with me. One day I might just wake up and be like, okay, I'm gonna read that. For the 3 books that I've read in the series, I would give 4 stars to all of them. Like, it was a very well put dystopian like YA story. The 9th book that I read in January is called The Cruel Prince. Shout out to that one random person who commented in one of my shorts to tell me to read this book. Bestie, you asked, I delivered. I've been really wanting to try fantasy for a hot minute, like just like dip my toes back into like the whimsical nature of fairy tales, and this was definitely like filling that void in me. I feel like this is a book that most people have read already, but if you don't know, Cruel Prince is about a girl named June. She gets abducted along with 2 of her sisters to go live out with the Fae people, and obviously that's very traumatizing, and the person that abducted them had an affair with their mom, so he just felt like he was the rightful father for these girls, and so all these girls are forced to live with the Fae and to like acclimate to that surrounding, and it's really hard for Jude because she's immortal and she's really trying to like find her footing within this society, but things are just like unnecessarily made hard for her. She goes to school and she gets bullied by these group of people. One of the people that's really making her life hellish is a guy named Cardin, and Let me tell you, I have very conflicting feelings about Cardin. I truly don't know how to feel about that guy. Like, one second he does something that's like despicable and I'm just like, this is the man we're supposed to be rooting for her? Like, come on girl. But at the same time, like, they'll have one romantic scene and I'm like, I'm confused. So yeah, that was me for the majority of this book and I'm very intrigued. So I'm definitely going to be reading the other books in the series just to see how things pan out between June and Cardin because their dynamic is very interesting, let me tell you. Things just ended on a very interesting note at the end of, so I'm really excited to check it out and we'll just see how the story progresses from there. In the middle, the story kind of seemed to drag a little bit. There were just way too many characters. At one point I felt like, this is the thing about fantasy, I feel like sometimes you just have so many different characters and like so many different things happening and it's just a new world that you're trying to like get used to that it just feels a little bit overwhelming for me. Just a little bit. So I feel like after I read the second book, I'll get more used to the world, maybe? I don't know. But for that reason, just because I'm not usually a fantasy reader, I would give this book a solid 3 stars. Like, I really enjoyed it and I would definitely recommend it to other people, but I feel like it was a little bit overhyped. My last double-digit book that I read in the month of January was The Yellow Wallpaper. Let's just say after reading this book, I'm never gonna ever purchase yellow wallpaper when I'm a homeowner. Just like never gonna happen. Like, I'm scared. Not to reflect negatively on the book was actually really good, but in a very like eerie and disturbing way. I read it in like 20 minutes. It was a very short read. So let me tell you a little bit about the book. So we follow a woman and she's possibly suffering from postpartum depression or postpartum psychosis, something along those lines. And she has been forced to like rest in a room by her husband, who is a physician. Her husband thinks that leaving her in solitary confinement is going to be like the best way to heal her and make her better, and it's just like not doing it for her. She is hallucinating. She is spending hours and hours on end staring at the wallpaper in a room, and she thinks that someone is trapped behind that wallpaper, and she thinks that when it's nighttime something is moving on the wallpaper, and it's just really creepy and just like disturbing. At the same time, this book was written in the 1980s and this was actually like proposed method of treatment for women suffering through psychosis, and like it's freaking scary to think about it because right now the world that we live in, solitary confinement is actually a punishment, and to think that this was actually like a treatment for depressed people at some point in time was just like bonkers to me. Like insanity. But I feel like this is definitely one of those books that's like difficult to get through a little bit if you can relate to the topics that are discussed in the book, but at the same time it's an essential read. It was an interesting book and I rated the book 4 stars. Like, definitely disturbed me, but it was interesting, not gonna lie. And yeah, those are all the 10 books that I read in the month of January. Let me know what books you've read in the month of January. Were they good? Were they bad? Were they like your new contender for the best book of 2024? Like, let me know. That's all for this video. Please take care of yourselves, be kind to yourself, and don't sweat the small stuff. Bye.